Hello, this is Sierra and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video inside of Hermitcraft Season Clockwork. And today we are going to be going into Story 2, which is in Scar's perspective. Yeah. Basically, I am going to be telling you a story based on Clockwork Chronicles. It just happens to have the hermits inside of it. Yeah. If you haven't read the first story, be sure to do so. And if you do want to be caught up with all the Clockwork Chronicles stuff, there are hours of videos if you're ever bored and you just want to sit there and listen to me read and comment about random stuff. Yeah, they're there if you want to, but if you don't want to, don't worry about it. Anyway, let's and get to it. Chapter 1. The view from the sky looking down into the land below was spectacular. The trees looked like little bushes attempting to reach out into the sky with minimal effort, their branches waving back and forth whenever a breeze would come through, making the leaves shake, their reds, oranges, and yellows seeming to create a collage of color rippling out in random directions, sometimes even causing a few leaves to be ripped away from their branches, gently floating down towards the ground. Also covered by leaves. Scars soared high above those trees, fascinated by the changing of the leaves, admiring the color splayed from below him. Seeing the transformation between seasons was always something he enjoyed. This was no exception. This season was an omen of something new. Something new was to come. Something just as beautiful and breathtaking. In a way, it represented just how much had changed for the YouTuber in the past few months. From just being a bunch of friends hanging out with each other and bumping into each other every so often, to living closer to one another, with the extra benefit of having someone there to help you if there was ever danger. Well, that depending on how one looked at it anyway. But Scar saw potential in this change. It meant that they could be in the place they knew so well, the world they called home. It meant they wouldn't be separated into different locations, posing a risk that Mr. A's men might try to divide and conquer. Literally. They were stronger together, and even stronger now with the cause at their side, doing their jobs. He knew very well, though, that it wasn't perfect. A lot had happened in those few months since he and his friends had been told they needed to leave the world they knew so well. Being taken to the safe houses, wondering if they'd ever return. Eventually they did, but it hadn't been easy. Many of his friends had been captured by Mr. A's men to various different locations as well. After the disappearance of Grian, he and Exuma had gone to get help elsewhere, finding it in their emergency contact, Rose, who had them immediately transferred elsewhere for safety. Everyone had been found not too long after, and the arrangement had taken them back home was established. Well, everyone apart from Grian, until recently. He was glad his friend was okay, though it was terrifying to know he'd been in that machine that had attacked them the whole time. They had been lucky that time, though it was uncertain whether or not that luck would run out. It didn't take the YouTuber long until he'd spotted what he was looking for. Hidden just beyond the trees loomed a large castle, its pearly white walls gleaming in the afternoon sun. It stretched high above the trees, with bits of gold and orange copper lacing the windows and roof. It looked incredible. He located a safe spot of land as he glided gently to the grass floor below. He felt the damp earth underneath his feet as he took a moment to look around his surroundings, making sure there wasn't any threat nearby. Not that there would be, since he'd used his Elytra once again to get here, and no one would have been able to keep up with him unless they too had wings. He'd missed flying with them, sometimes doing accidentally when he was traveling with his escort assigned to protect him. Scar felt that it would be fine in this case, since the men did know where he was going. He did feel bad, though. Not enough to go back and meet up with them. Scar took a deep breath, letting in the cool and crisp autumn air, feeling the sun's rays falling on him. Warm and sweet. It was a lovely day. A perfect day to check to see how Green was doing, since he'd heard that his friend had woken up not too long ago after days of silence. Sorry. He went towards the front door, hearing the crunching of the grass under him as he laid them flat unintentionally. The YouTuber finally arrived, as he hesitated for a moment, unsure if he should knock first or simply walk right in. He decided it would be more polite to knock first, even though his friend wouldn't mind that either way. After knocking on the door and receiving silence, he glanced quickly over his shoulder, wondering if his escort would be here soon. It wasn't really that long of a walk, though, so surely he'd be here shortly. It still felt like an eternity before he heard footsteps on the other side of the doorway, and it opened to reveal Liam, a shorter than average height teenage boy with bright red curls and bright blue eyes. His smile did also seem bright and welcoming. Why, hello there. I suppose you came to visit? Yeah, I wanted to see how Green was doing, since I heard he was awake. Scar admitted sheepishly. You weren't the only one, the boy replied as he beckoned him inside. I assume Devin is just behind you? Yeah, kind of left him behind by accident, Scar said with a nervous chuckle. He'll be here soon. All right, the boy replied with a nod. Green's upstairs in its bedroom. You know where that is, I suppose? Pretty sure I do, Scar mused. Thanks. See you soon. Liam nodded as Scar headed for the stairwell, excited and eager to see his friend again. Green apparently had recovered very well, which was excellent news for all of them. It meant that the recruits probably would be able to arrive sooner than originally anticipated. It was much needed, since there were a few of his friends who didn't have someone to help them at the time due to Machine's horrible attack. 2 people in the cause had been brutally crushed under the machine, from what he'd heard, which was rather unfortunate. It didn't take long before he arrived at the top of the stairs, heading down the hallway until he found Green's bedroom, giving a knock as he waited for a reply. You can come in, Green's voice called out. Almost a moment later, as Scar opened the door, closing it gently behind him, the YouTuber looked up to see that Green was sitting up on his bed, the covers pulled back. He was dressed in his usual attire, but it looked a lot newer and fresher, as if it had gone through a wash at some point. It's good to see you're awake, Scar said cheerfully. Green smiled and nodded. Yeah, I suppose so. I'm just about ready to go out on my own soon enough. That's good, Scar nodded simply. I hear I wasn't the only one who dropped by for a visit. Yeah, Green replied. Few people have dropped by. I sort of know what's going on now, outside my own bedroom. Do you think you're ready for it, though? You'll have someone constantly following you to make sure you're protected, Gar pointed out. He'll get used to it, the YouTuber shrugged. It's probably for the best anyway, since Mr. A realizes he didn't actually kill me. Right, Scar stated simply. You're okay on that front, though, after what happened? I think I'll be okay, Green replied. Well, if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm always open, Scar replied matter-of-factly. Green smiled. I knew you were going to say that. The YouTuber laughed. Then you know me well. Green nodded as he hit his head once more. A moment of silence lasting between the two of them before he asked the question. How long do you think it'll be before he figures it out? Scar shrugged. Hard to say, but he won't be able to get to you, or any of us. We can handle it. Of course, Green stated quietly. He's done pretty horrible things. I really don't want to go back there. You won't be. Scar said with determination. Chances are it'll be a while before he knows you survived that explosion. Grian nodded. Then I suppose we enjoy the time we do have, until he does. Precisely. I can even help with that if you want, Scar offered. Sounds like fun. Grian agreed, with a smile, settling for the other YouTuber. He had a feeling his friend still a long way to go yet until he would be back to his full self again. And that was okay. He'd do what he could to help him to get there in the best of his ability. Chapter 2? Sorry, my nose is very sniffly. I don't think I remember to take my Flonase last night. A few days had passed, the way of life now steadily resting on a new normal. Everything as it was supposed to be. Well, except for the shopping district, which had been completely demolished and taken down. It was far riskier having it where it was, especially when Mr. A's men had the capability of flying over them and dousing explosives everywhere. Keeping shops closer to one another's bases probably was better, since it would mean the men would need to do a lot more to take down people. There was even talk of completely abandoning the gaming district and just leaving the idea on the cutting room floor. It was much safer to be close together. There were both risks and benefits to this, but Scar felt they had all made the best decision. Mr. A's men would not stand a chance against them, even if they tried. Knowing that, though, it was still difficult to know for sure when the next attack would come. They had been able to handle the last few months in relative peace. After escaping the clutches of Mr. A and his goons, the people in the cause seemed to be especially cautious, not letting them forget that the silence is a common tactic amongst these men, to try and let their guard down. There was even talk to limit the use of elytras for safety reasons, which undoubtedly many would be unsure about. Scar looked out of the window of his bedroom, which faced the direction from where Grian's house would be. No doubt things were going to be happening there today, since Liam was planning on heading out and the new recruits were coming in, which meant Grian would have to deal with someone new. He had a feeling that once things began to warm up, there would be shenanigans happening over there. He honestly wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. His thoughts were interrupted, however, when he heard a knock on his bedroom door. He turned, calling out to the newcomer. The door opened to reveal a tall man in his mid-20s. He had dark brown hair and light hazel eyes that twinkled with some sort of mysterious knowledge Scar could even ever dream to know. The man stood tall as the YouTuber looked at him up and down. Having a good day so far? The man asked the YouTuber at last. Scar nodded. Doing all right. What are you up to? Well, a few of us are planning to do a little surprise for the new arrivals. Would you like to tag along? The man pondered. What kind of a surprise? The YouTuber stated curiously. I suppose a small welcome party would put it lightly, the man said with a shrug. Small or not, that sounds like fun, Scar replied. We could even show them around, and though they can be better acquainted with the area. My thoughts exactly, the man smiled. You coming then? Kind of have to, don't I? Scar mused. It's not like you're going to leave me here by myself. Still your choice, the man offered. Of course I'll come, the YouTuber said excitedly. You know I can't resist a surprise of any kind. Right then, we'll be heading out in about 5 minutes to the designated location, otherwise known as the new meeting hall. You guys got that done already? Scar asked in surprise. We had a little help, the man admitted. But yes, the sooner we can get that done, the better. It's also much more secure as well, just in case. Right, of course, the YouTuber replied. Well, I'll be right down shortly. The man nodded and gave him a little wave before disappearing out the door. Once the man had disappeared, Scar did not hesitate going for the chest in his room, rummaging around as he hunted for things he was going to need. He didn't know how many of them would be there, but he got more than enough, he supposed. they would be nice little gifts and trinkets for their new arrivals. It wasn't much, but it was the thought that counted. Once he felt that he had everything he needed, he closed the chest and pocketed everything safely, heading towards the door with a little skip. He closed the door on his way out, making sure it was firmly shut as he went for the stairs and hurried down, seeing a few figures below. "Whoa, hello there," Scar said in surprise as he saw both False and Stress standing there beside the man. "Guess I should have expected you two would be a part of this." "Hello, Scar," one of them used a chuckle. "Shouldn't be far," the man stated matter-of-factly. "Green will be taking the group over to us, so we'll be awaiting the surprise." "Sounds good with me," Stress said cheerfully. "I can't wait to meet them." They didn't say much throughout their journey to the new meeting area, except for the occasional small talk as they arrived at the place. It wasn't too spectacular, looking a bit overgrown, which seemed to be in the intent. Looked luscious and colorful as they entered the area as the man gestured for them to have a seat. "How long do you think it'll be before they get here?" False asked the man curiously. "Probably a few minutes or so, not too long," the man replied simply. Sure enough, it didn't take too long before the group heard someone approaching, and Scar turned to glance over at where everyone was looking at. He could see Green leading a group of 3 men, tall, sturdy, and determined. One of them looked awfully familiar, though, but the YouTuber wasn't sure how he recognized him or where it had been. He'd seen a lot of people in the cause about now, so the faces did tend to blur together, even now, every now and again. "You made it!" Stress exclaimed in excitement. "Yeah," Green chuckled with a smile. "Not much of a hassle, really." "That's good to hear," the man standing with the group stated. "The name's Devin. Would you three like to introduce yourselves?" The other men introduced themselves, but Scar wasn't really listening. His mind had wandered off as he noticed Green stepping away from the trio of men, sitting next to False and Stress quietly. There was a little bit of small talk between his friends before Devin cleared his throat again. "I'm guessing we should decide who should be in charge of who?" Devin finally asked, bringing all the YouTubers' focus back to him. "I'm interested in taking Green as my charge," one of them said instantly. Scar glanced over at Green, noticing a hint of a wince, so he wondered if he had mentioned it. "I can go with either," another man said simply. "Same here," the third replied. "Maybe we should let them choose. Sounds fair enough." "I think it might be better if we get to know each other first," Green offered. "You guys could exchange every once in a while until you settle in." "That sounds like a good idea," the second man said confidently. "I've already made up my mind," the first one said firmly. "Very well then, I guess it's settled," Devin replied, saying a few extra things that Scar didn't quite hear, not that he needed to. Even if he did hear what was being said, he probably wouldn't remember it anyway. He watched out the group disperse, watching the girls leave with their new escorts, as well as Green with his. Scar noticed his friend being a little reluctant, glancing back towards Devin for a moment before his escort grabbed him by the arm and pulled him away. Something didn't sit well with him, but he wasn't sure why. Probably wasn't anything to worry about, though, as he heard his name being called. "Time to go?" Scar asked, simply, as he stood up from the chair he'd been sitting on. The man nodded. "It's going to be a busy few days for a bit, while people get settled in again." "We'll get there," the YouTuber said brightly. "Shouldn't be too difficult, right?" "Hopefully," the man said with a sigh. The YouTuber nodded, following the man out of the area, back towards his house. Things were still adjusting. It would be worth it in the end. He just knew it. I think we're going to end this episode here. My foot is falling asleep. I hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah. If you have any thoughts, questions, theories, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I will see you in the next one, whenever that might be. Goodbye.